Good morning. It's my pleasure to join with Chairman Joe Lhota today and John Samuelson from the TWU. We have Tony Utano, who's the president of the local 100 of the TWU. Rose Duff, who's the superintendent here for the Department of Subways Car Equipment, and Steve Halifax, the assistant chief mechanical officer, who just brought us on the tour. We're at the 207th Street Overhaul facility, and this is a facility that obviously takes the older cars, refurbishes them, rehabs them, gets them back running again. We just finished the state budget, and there was a lot of good work that was done in the state budget. There's $1 billion more for education, more money to rebuild public housing. We're rebuilding the Hudson River Park, anti-sexual harassment legislation, a lot of good work done in the budget. But one of the keys to me in the budget was they fully funded what we call the Subway Action Plan. The Subway Action Plan is the short-term, intensive repair operation for the subway system. And really, we have to get to a point where we're moving down two tracks, pardon the pun. One is a short-term intensive repair of the current equipment. And what has happened over the years is we have deferred maintenance and we've deferred replacement for equipment. It's a short-sighted view, but that's what we've done. We have 100-year-old electric switches in the subway system. We have 50-year-old cars that are being refurbished. You say to yourself, how can you have a 50-year-old subway car? We do. How do you have 100-year-old switches? Because you don't invest in them and you don't change them, what they call preventive maintenance. It's smart, but it's always the first thing to go. And the attitude becomes, when it breaks, we'll fix it. And what's happening in the subway system now is things are breaking. There's a further problem that the volume on the subway system has gone way up. So now you have two factors compounding each other. You have 50-year-old subway cars, 100-year-old switches that weren't replaced, weren't maintained, and you increase the volume, almost double the volume since 1984. You're using the equipment that much more under that much stress, and you have a system that is breaking down. Chairman Lhota came up with a short-term subway action plan, which is an intensive short-term repair plan. We then needed to get it funded, and that's what the legislature has successfully done now. Full funding for the $836 million short-term repair program. So you take a facility like this, will now be running literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you will increase the output of this facility, which is repairing cars. But you're going to see this all through the system now that we have the funding. The track repair crews will be running at a higher level with more crews, with a higher frequency of output. The drainage problem, which sounds like a simple thing, but is a major problem for us. The power supply repair. All these separate operations will now be working at a much higher frequency, much higher intensity. We have made some progress thus far under the Subway Action Plan, but we were doing it with one hand tied behind our back because the plan wasn't fully funded. Now that it's fully funded, we can hire the personnel and we can really get up and going. And that's exactly what the chairman is doing. I want to thank the leadership of the MTA, who have really stepped up to handle a crisis. This is a crisis that was 50 years in the making, but they're in the seat, they're in a leadership position, and they have stepped up. I want to thank the TWU. and the women and the men who work on the subway system. This is dangerous work, as you can see. This is hard work, as you can see. There's nothing glamorous about this. High level of technical expertise that you need to do this. And they have stepped up and they have been there above and beyond the call of duty. And under this new subway action plan, they're literally going to be asked to work 7 days a week around the clock. And that's going to be a burden on them and their families, etc. So we thank them very much for it. The next few months, you'll see this short-term action plan fully phasing in, operation by operation. Next week, we're going to look at the track repair operation. The week after that, we're going to look at the power repair operation, so literally component by component, now that the funding is in place. But then at the same time, we have to start to plan to make sure the situation doesn't happen again. And we have to plan for the subway system for the next generation. The volume has gone way up, as I mentioned before, about double the volume from 1984. You're about 1.8 billion riders per year. The system cannot handle the volume. Period. It wasn't designed for the volume, it can't handle it. Literally, the train capacity can't handle it. The platform capacity can't handle it. You can't run more trains by our current signal system. You can't run longer trains because they don't fit on the platforms. So we literally need to redesign the system for tomorrow. And we have to learn the lesson from this situation, which is get ahead of it. Let's redesign the system for tomorrow. Let's start today. It's going to begin with a different type of navigation system that can run trains closer together, a higher frequency of trains that can handle more people. That is easier said than done. That navigation system doesn't exist right now. We had an original estimate of time was 40 years, 30 years, 20 years to design it. We don't have anything like that. We have to redesign this system, and we have to do it fast, and we have to have the best system on the globe. That's our objective. That's always been the New York objective, to have the first, the best, and our subway system is the lifeblood of New York City and the lifeblood of the regional economy. We have the talent with the TWU, we just haven't had the resources. And now we have the resources. You put the resources together with the talent, that is TNT, that is dynamite, and you're going to see this system. You're going to see the repairs come online, and at the same time, we're going to be working on the system of tomorrow, and we're going to be working on it today. With that, let me turn it over to